Okay, so hi guys and welcome back to my channel. My name is V Kativhu. I am a third year student at the University of Oxford and I study classical archaeology and ancient history. For today's video we are going to be talking about how I got into the University of Oxford twice and made history. Now, before anyone rolls their eyes, I know I've spoken about this before. I think I made a video in January 2018 and I told you guys the whole story in depth, all the ins and outs. But it's been over a year since then, and at that time I think we had about 5,000 subscribers, I think, and I'd never asked anyone what they thought. I just kind of made the video from my experience. Fast forward a year later, a lot of you guys, this genuinely is so highly requested, a lot of you guys have been asking me to make like an updated version about how I feel now, what's happened since then, has it worked, like now that I'm going into my third and final year at the university. So grab your cup of tea, your little pinkity drinkity, and let's have a chat. And also look at my friend Jade's jumper. Like, can you guys see this? It says mind over mattress. It says early bird on the arms, and then right here, for anyone who's like having a struggle while they're studying, it says you've got this. Love this jumper, it's my favorite. Anyway, let's get into the video. So I got into the University of Oxford twice in 2016. I started on the 25th of September on something called a foundation year scheme. It was the first of its kind in Oxford and Cambridge, and they were running it as a pilot scheme, so it wasn't guaranteed to continue on forever, but they were testing it out. So technically, as everyone loved to call us in that year, we were the guinea pigs, as you may. So okay, let's start from the beginning. So I wanted to apply to Oxford in my first year of A-levels. I had A's, but I didn't because I didn't feel as encouraged as I could have been. Doesn't mean I'm saying my teachers were bad or that they didn't, you know, I'm just saying I wish for a person like myself I'd been encouraged a little bit more. And one of my teachers did tell me to my face not to apply because it wasn't for someone like me, which is obviously very discouraging because as a student who comes from like a underrepresented background and stuff, you kind of look up to your teachers. My mum obviously couldn't help me with things like that because, you know, she'd migrated to the UK and she didn't understand the English schooling system very well, and my dad, I don't have a dad, he died sadly, so I couldn't really turn to like my parents, or parent should I say. So my teacher was kind of like my point of call when it came to education because they understood it better. So when she kind of said to me, literally looked me in the eye and said don't do it, I was like, okay, well, there goes the dream. So I didn't apply, which I regretted for a long time. And then came second year of A-levels and I was like, you know, I really regret that. Should I maybe like, I don't know, take an extra year out and like reapply later? But then I kind of let it go and I was like, V, Exeter, Durham, there are other incredible institutions in the Russell Group unis that you could go to, so let's start looking into that. And then by God's miracle, I swear this is God's miracle, but then I got an email from the Social Mobility Foundation advertising the foundation year at Lady Margaret Hall, Oxford, and it was the first time that they were running this. Cambridge didn't have one, and I was like, whoa. And they told me that it was like fully funded, literally all costs were covered. You'd have a year at Oxford. It was for students from underrepresented, lower socioeconomic backgrounds who'd been to state schools and who really wanted to like end up either applying to Oxford, Cambridge or any of the Russell Group universities, but wanted an extra year of like studying and preparing for undergraduate study. And it was basically like a bridging course, if you may. It is a foundation year. It is exactly in the name, a foundation year. And I was like, whoa, this sounds like a bit of May. Not a lot of things sound like a bit of May apart from a cheeky Nando's, but this was a bit May. And I was like, I'm going to apply. Went to tell my teacher, went to the same woman before who I'd approached before because I had to approach her. And she kind of was just like, yeah, I just think they want you because you're black. I was like, well, and I was kind of really frustrated because I thought, you know what, I can't keep listening to you because you're going to keep on discouraging me. And there were so many other teachers that were encouraging me, but she was like my main go-to, you know. So when she'd say no and those kind of things, it kind of really did get to me, but I kind of ignored her and I went along with the teacher that was encouraging me, my wonderful, wonderful history teacher. He was amazing. And a careers advisor, she was absolutely phenomenal. So I got their help, got my personal statement sorted, all that kind of stuff, and we sent it in. Then that's when I applied for that in March, and then I was unfortunately already travelling the world and going to the world. I'm joking. I was travelling to America for Camp America for 3 months. So I'd applied for the foundation year in March, got an interview in July, but I was already out of the country. I was already in America, and I was like, oh my god, I have to go to Oxford for an interview, but I'm in America, and like, this is my only chance. I'm like, what am I doing? So then they let me have a Skype call, and you can go watch the other video for the in-depth of what happened, because it was a madness. It was a horrific experience, but the Skype call was great, but the process to get into the Skype call was awful. Then results day came in August, and that was diabolical. The worst day, like in terms of what happened. If you want to know all the info on that, just watch the other video, because it was horrendous results day. But nonetheless, we prospered, and I ended up getting in to the University of Oxford with 3 B's on results day. But that was not my initial offer. I was supposed to have gotten 2 A's and a B, I believe, because they lowered the grade boundary a little bit. Okay, so I fly back to the UK in September, and I think 15 days later I drive to Oxford to move in. I get there on the 25th of September 2016, and I move in. So that's the background detail of like how I applied and got in and stuff like that. Personal statement, interview, all that good stuff, and obviously results day. We're in. I get there, and I already knew this, but like I just want to emphasize this. We had to reapply. We had to reapply to get into the University of Oxford. So we arrived on the 25th of September 2016, and we had to reapply by the 15th of October like everybody else to get in again. So that's the first little tiny flaw that I have with the foundation year, and I don't have many. Literally I have like 2 or 3. Like it's literally, to me, was the best thing that ever happened to me. But the little tiny flaws could change and make it an incredible scheme, which it is already, but like just little things. And one of those little things is, it doesn't really make sense that I arrive on the 20th of September and then by the 15th of October I'm reapplying. That's like less than a month. So is it a foundation year or a foundation month? And then we had interviews in December. Bear in mind, this is all happening while I'm living at Oxford. My bedroom is located upstairs. I am going for interviews downstairs to get into the university where my bedroom is already upstairs. It was a little bit mind-boggling, but nonetheless we got through it. Had my interviews in January. I found out that I had been given an offer. Scariest day. Like, we got back to university in January. I unpacked my stuff at Oxford University to then 2 days later have to like do this walk the plank to the principal's office to receive my letter face to face of whether or not I'd been given the offer to get into Oxford for my undergraduate while I was in Oxford. You understand why it was playing with my brain. I'd been there already for about 6 months at that point. I'd grown to love the place, and it was only happening at Lady Margaret Hall, not the whole university. So technically we weren't students at the University of Oxford, we were students at Lady Margaret Hall, and we were applying to get into Oxford. And even like media companies and things were emailing our college to be like, can we follow the 10 of them around for the year and have a documentary made on this? We had papers writing about us. We were in like lots of brochures and booklets and things, and lots of politicians were coming to visit us, and it was a whole like situation. Like, this was a big deal. It was like the first ever foundation year in Oxford, you know, and it was kind I don't know, it was a big deal in a sense, and we felt it because we felt eyes on us a lot, and people were always like wondering. It felt like you were actually a guinea pig, and people were like watching in a cage, and it was crazy. But anyway, I don't even know what point I was making. Oh yeah, so I was opening up my results and I was so nervous and scared, and found out I got the offer, and I was like, I've been here for 6 months. I really love this place. I really want to be here. So I had the last 6 months to kind of make sure my work stayed up to scratch, and that I ended up graduating from the foundation year with like a secure like 2-1 or a pass or whatever you want to call it, a successful completion or whatever it was called. I didn't really grasp the technicalities. And then June came around the corner, and 2 days before the graduation they tell you whether or not you can actually come back as a student or not. So in June I was like, please God, like I really want this, and I worked really hard, and I found out I'd gotten in, which was absolutely incredible. In the end we had a 70% from the 10, so 70% ended up as studying as undergraduates at the university, and it was just an experience. And since then we've had about 3 other years that have been on the foundation year so far. We were the first, and to like watch this grow is crazy. So how did I feel when I was on the course? I really felt great. I really enjoyed it. Like, I always say this and I'm not exaggerating. I promise you I'm not. I genuinely think that the foundation year changed my life in a sense, because I feel like I really did gain a lot of academic confidence in my work, and I know that I could have obviously gained that elsewhere without being on a foundation year at Oxford, but for me it just so happened that my story worked out that way. And in my sixth form I was starting to doubt myself and I wasn't so confident. I didn't think that we as a sixth form had enough support, and it's no one's fault, honestly. It's just a lack of resources, a lack of structure and like stability in a sense. So when I did have that year at Oxford, I felt like I did find myself, and all of us did our subject specific. So I was doing classical archaeology and ancient history. The one thing I hated about the foundation year was the workload. It was ridiculous. Like, I think they've lessened it now. We'd have a lot of meetings in terms of like meeting all of these people who wanted to understand the foundation year and introduce us to their world. So you'd meet lawyers, people who were working for the government, people like, you'd meet all kinds of people, right? Then you'd also have an essay from your subject. Then I'd have one for my principal for journalistic writing. Then I'd have one for critical thinking and creative writing for our tutor for that. Then we'd also have like to prepare debate things for our debate class. So you'd have about 3 or 4 pieces of work to hand in, and they're not a joke. It's about at least 2,000 words minimum per thing. And in the end, it wasn't that bad because I was used to it, but for the first month or so, and you're doing all of that on top of while still applying to Oxford because you're not yet in Oxford, it was a lot of work. But it did prepare me, because then when I got into first year of Oxford, I was like, oh, this is a breeze. I can like handle this. It was great. So the workload was terrible, but I'm grateful for it because it taught me how to write. Like, I can write. I'm going to have to say this, but my work, whew, it's great. It's fantastic. How did I feel stigma-wise? People were asking this on Instagram. Now, I think I would say a strong 95% of the people I encountered were so lovely. People were so proud that Oxford was starting this, that they were finally opening up their doors a little bit more, that we were making progress in the right way. This was like one of like the biggest access initiatives that Oxford had done in a very, very long time, and it was a massive statement. And, well, not Oxford, Lady Margaret Hall, because Oxford only 3 years later, no shade or anything, but it took Oxford about 3 years to finally accept the foundation year as a university-wide initiative and to launch it across every single college at one go, instead of just one little college, Lady Margaret Hall, doing it out of like 38 colleges. And Cambridge are going to launch theirs in 2020 and just do it university-wide from the beginning, which I think is what Oxford should have done from the start, but I get it. Everything has to have a beginning, and progress is better than no progress. Great. And the 5%, that's what I was saying. So the 95% that were fantastic. The 5% of people were just kind of like, had like a little bit of a negative connotation. They'd be like, oh, you're dumbing down Oxford, lowering the standards, why are we opening up the doors, everything is fine how it is, and they'd make you feel inferior. And obviously it's difficult to walk around with a label that everyone kind of already knows, and you're now no longer just V, you're V who's a black woman in a space that's predominantly white. You're from a lower socioeconomic background, so we already know that you don't have that much money. You're from an underrepresented background. Now you're on the foundation year, which means that you've like gone through Oxford in an unconventional way, and like it's just a massive, just the word foundation year itself had like a lot of connotations that was, but at the same time it was incredible, and I just had the best time. And also it was a bit hard in terms of like, there would be like, let's just say 1,000 freshers, but there were 10 foundation year students. So if anything, if they ever publish anything in the university about foundation year students on the website or in our college, there are 10 of us. The chances are you can exactly narrow down who it is that they're talking about, or do you know what I mean? And you could easily Google us as well. There were lots of articles about us, some that weren't very kind. They were like, poor students get to go to Oxford. We did have a lot of eyes on us, and that was a bit hard. I also didn't have a YouTube channel back then, so I wasn't used to that either. Yeah, overall, I would highly recommend. It was a lifetime experience for me, and please, I am not speaking on behalf of anybody. I understand that every single one of us, all 10 of us, will have had an individual experience. None of us would ever have the same story. It's like going to a party with your friends and someone asks you to describe the party. Like, you're all going to have different versions of events depending on what side of the room you are standing in. When you ask each one of us, all 10 of us, we had totally different experience. Mine was mostly positive. I'd say 90% positive, 10% difficult, mentally challenging, and I had a great experience, honestly. Yeah, I just wish that the name would change though. I do wish the name would change. I don't like the name Foundation Year. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. If you've gotten this far, please comment down a yellow, because I love yellow. Comment down a yellow heart and tell me what stage of education you're in right now. Like, are you first year, second year, third year, GCSEs? And also, what country are you watching from? Because this always fascinates me. I never know where people are like watching from, and I just really want to know. So what country are you from, and what stage of your academics are you in? And a yellow heart. So thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys in my next video.